Marie Tredway, aka Nurse Trini Campus. It is so Filipino. I'm
It
sorry.
is. Her full name is Trinidad.
Right, right. Well, okay, let's back up a little. You are, I've been reading, how do you call this? Your resume.
Mm-hmm.
You have a theater background. You have
Yes.
dance. The girl can dance, okay? So have you done anything like dance professionally before doing television or, in a company? Is that the right word for
Yeah,
dance?
so I started taking dance lessons when I was 3 years old, and so I was in dance classes all up into middle school, and then in high school I joined a dance troupe, and we would go compete and we would perform and do all of those things. And then when I came to Chicago 10, 15 years later, I went back to school and I got my dance minor. And so by that time, I kind of threw away my 20s in the sense that I didn't get to explore the dance side, which is usually that, 18 to 25 is kind of peak dancer,
Right.
professional dancer training or performing. But taking my dance minor and all of my dance experiences, I choreographed a lot of things professionally, as well as used dance a lot in my work, a lot in theater, and a lot of, just even like on film, we have to finagle our bodies and stuff. And I'm grateful for my dance experience of learning to twist around the cameras.
Right.
Literally just did that
Right.
yesterday. Squeezed myself into a corner so a camera can get a shot.
Right. Well, other than dance, you mentioned theater.
Mhm.
What kind of theater is that? Is that musical theater or stage directly theater?
No, stage theater. My mom's a wonderful singer. My daughter's a wonderful singer, but I missed that gene, and I think that's why I was dancing and not singing. I'm sorry to disappoint all my Filipinos out there, but I don't sing. Maybe I can carry a tune, but that's not my main forte. So I did theater performance at my community college, and then got a full ride to my 4-year college. And then I had a theater performance major and a double minor in communications and dance. So I did 6 years of theater training. And then when I started working professionally, that's where I started as theater. I always thought I was just going to do theater plays and maybe choreograph or direct some musicals, which I've done. So I did, I think, maybe about 2 years of theater in Chicago and Milwaukee before I got my agent and then started auditioning for film and TV. So I started in theater.
Now, do you belong in a certain company and how do you call this?
I'm sorry, can you say that again, Amy? I think.
Do you belong in any theater company?
Um, not officially. I used to work with Three Brothers Theater up in Waukegan because that's where the area that I'm in. I used to do a lot of projects with them, but then once the show happened, it was really hard to kind of divide my time. But I try to. I don't have I'm not an ensemble member in any huge specific company, but I found that I gravitate myself towards projects and companies that lift up marginalized voices and underrepresented groups, such as, Black, Indigenous people of color, or women, or theater that's really doing some challenging and thought-provoking work. I've noticed that anytime I kind of attach myself to a project, it comes from there. So not necessarily a member, but I've noticed that that's kind of my theater niche, if you will.
Are you concentrated on Chicago as far as your market is concerned, or have you gone other than Chicago and Milwaukee outside of
So what's great about where I lived, because I was going to college in Wisconsin, but I still had things happening, in Chicago. My husband and we found a house kind of in the middle of that. So it's been great working professionally. I only do theater things up in Wisconsin, but it's been great to be able to do both. But I only film the TV show in Chicago.
Now, this is probably a very redundant question, but I guess I need to ask it, especially for those people who are, let's just say the younger folks who are trying to get into the business in general, the entertainment business. Like, I have a daughter who's in theater. I guess she sings. She's been theater knee high until now. Um, how important is education? When I ask that, it's like a lot of people like, and not to demean anyone or whatever. I'm not sure if you're aware, in the Philippines, um, our idea of being in show business is you gotta look good, and sometimes talent takes second place. While here in the U.S., you get to find out like, okay, if you really look at it, most of your very um, and I say most, not really predominantly, but most of the actors that succeed, or let's say have a very stable working or being employed by the business, or have backgrounds on or let's say have a foundation in theater or have educational background on theater or film. Now, how important is that, do you think?
To me, I think it's important because you can have all the raw natural talent, which does
Right.
get pretty far. And sometimes, depending on certain areas, like for example, Los Angeles looks get you far as well. But I think what you're talking about is the longevity and
Right.
the stability of a career, which sometimes those things, talent and looks, don't
Correct.
add to all. So education is really important because you need to channel that raw talent, and you need to channel the ability and the passion into something where it reads well on stage and on screen. And you can only get that by learning.
Learning. Right.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be college, because secondary education is a privilege, and not a
Right.
lot of people can have access to that or have financial possibilities for that. So even taking a acting class or community college is where I got my start. Finding the places where you can still learn, I think is important. So in that sense, education in any format, college, a community college, acting class, a community theater, you are always going to be learning. And I think that's highly important in cementing a career that is going to take you along further away.
Now, would you agree it gives you more options too, other than like a fallback? If you know, I remember watching a James Corden thing, the sing along in the car,
Mm-hmm.
when she asked Jesse, when
Mm-hmm.
they have all the Stony Award winner, and he asked Jesse's like, oh, which do you love best, money or theater, that kind of thing. So you as an actor, I know that you direct too.
Mm-hmm.
Does that give you a fallback because you've learned all the craft by itself in school, that when you go like, okay, I can tap her as a director, I can tap her as a writer?
In a way, yes, because I think that, not just learning your craft, you're learning real life experience of what it means to postgraduate, get into an industry that doesn't pay well. Theater does not pay well, but
Correct.
you learn, then this was hard for me too, as a daughter of first generation Filipino Americans, is
Uh-huh.
that American dream is do something that you love and get paid well for it. That's not what's going to happen in theater. You have to,
Yep.
you have to adopt a different mentality of saying you have to do what you have to do in order to do what you love, which
Okay.
is you got to work those jobs that you can work around your theater career. You got to find financial stability in something that can still give you the flexibility to do what you love. And I think in that sense, it's very important to learn that, burnout is such a huge thing in our
Yeah.
industry,
Mhm.
or like the grind of auditioning and not getting cast is such a
Yeah.
mental wear and tear that I think some sort of learning model, if it's school or if it's or learning from your fellow peers or learning from a class, that's just part of the job, and learning how to adapt is really important.
Now you talk about your being a first generation Filipino American, and I love that you said that, you know, typical Filipino parents, our generation, they're so honed in, like, okay, you gotta go and get a 9 to 5 job, you know, and how did you explain that to your folks, that this is what I love to do, and it's not gonna be easy?
And some people who know me, who are watching this, have probably heard the story before. But my mom's Filipino dream of me being a nurse is why I went to community college. So, like I said, in my 20s, I kind of lost my way. I wasn't going to school. I was a single mom. I was struggling in a codependent relationship, and I was struggling with my own things. And so I literally left California to move to Chicago to kind of restart. And so my mom said, why don't you come here? I can help you, I can help take care of the baby, and then you can go back to school to fulfill my dream of you being a nurse.
Oh, okay.
And I got it because, when my daughter was born, the nurses, particularly one, she was half Filipina, and I'll never forget her and how well she cared. So I was like, I can do this. I'm intelligent, and I know I can do that. But it was the first day of my community college when in my English class, 2 people said they were auditioning for something in the theater department. And it just took off from there. So I was trying to balance both. And then it was maybe halfway through my college career. I was 2 prerequisites away from finishing up like my prereqs for a nursing program. And a mentor at school said, you're not only good at this, but this can be a profession for you. Like, I think as Filipinos, and as like people who, or anybody who comes from like a, not so financially well-off family, things like this are considered like hobbies. Like the art or hobby.
Exactly.
And so I never knew until then that performing could be a real career. I always thought that was something that was like for movie stars or something unattainable. And it wasn't until I went to community college that I said, okay, this is not only something that I'm good at, but a viable thing that I can do. And I will make sure that no matter what I'm doing, I'm supporting that career. So that's when I told my mom, I said, I'm not going to do my nursing program. I'm going to pursue theater full time. And then it was so weird because once I decided that, I feel like the universe and higher being up there kind of helped me shift my focus and my way. And I met my husband, who was basically said, I got you, I support you, follow your dreams, and was able to help financially and like emotionally. I got my full ride to a theater school, a theater, focused school. And it just, I felt like once I accepted that, that's when all the paths opened for me. But even then, I'll never forget this, that I had like a really huge lead role in one of the shows, and it gotten so many reviews. I ended up winning like a national award. And my mom said, I love you, you're so talented. And I thought it was going to be like, oh my gosh, she's finally accepted. She goes, but before I die, can you just finish your program?
Okay, that's hysterical.
You're gonna kill me for saying that, but it's true. I mean, I said that, and I said, "Oh my gosh!" But now it's kind of like sweet revenge because now I'm a nurse on TV.
On TV, I'm like, hey mom, at least I'm playing it. I'm doing it both. You see me as a nurse, and I'm still doing what I love to do.
Right, exactly. I told my medical advisor that. I told the cast that my first table read of like my mom. I was like, I'm actually living my mom's dream right now, one way or another. And so the medical advisor on set, anytime she does something that shows me how to like do an IV or do, take something, she goes, we're going to make your mom proud. It's great.
Oh my God, that is so cool. At least, your kids watch you on TV. I jot this down last minute. Your kids see you on television. Do they get like, that's my mom? Because like, it's my mom. Or are they just nonchalant? Yeah, okay, fine. She's there. She's on TV. She's on my every Wednesday.
They're really great. The first time they ever saw me, it was like my first episode aired, and we all sat around to watch it. Daddy and Mommy kept saying to my little 4-year-old, or she was 3 at the time, they go, that's Mommy. And she was looking and she was like, no, like she didn't understand that I was in front of her, but also on TV.
Right.
And until a day later when I was like watching on Hulu again, because you know, that first time everybody's screaming and like,
right.
you know, I was like, okay, now I can sit down and watch the actual episode. You could see her eyes, like it was like a light bulb of like, Mommy, a doctor, Mommy, a doctor. And so now every time she sees even like the Chicago Med sign, she goes, Mommy, Doctor, Mommy.
She upgraded you. She promoted you.
You know, she just thinks like everybody's a doctor up there. But my 12-year-old is really proud. Actually, I think she told me, well, she did. She interrupted, like not interrupted, but at the end of the class, the teacher was like, do you have any questions? She goes, no, watch my mom on Chicago Med today.
That's your plug.
Yeah, and it turns out her homeroom teacher is a fan of the show. So she said, oh, amazing. So now her school knows that I'm on Chicago Med.
Chicago Med. At least you have a fan base from Chicago Med.
Yeah, exactly.
From her school. So,
exactly.
Okay, you were going to Chicago Med. Obviously, you auditioned for it. How many were you in the role auditioning for it? I gotta ask, because like I was talking, you know, I know there's long lines when it comes to auditioning for a speaking role, let alone in a background actor. But you know, is for a speaking role, how competitive is that?
It's competitive, and so I have a little story for that. So my first Chicago lead role, and it was a small company, but it was a beautiful role about somebody from Hawaii, a reformed drug dealer, a drug addict turned drug dealer, called Honey Girl, and it was set outside on the Hawaiian beach, which our set was Lake Michigan. It was a really, really wonderful play, but I got my start there because a casting agent for the One Chicago shows came and saw me. And that's how I got my break into film and TV. And for about a year, so one casting agent does Chicago Fire and Chicago PD, and another agent does Chicago Med. So they're 2 different companies. Both of the agents from both of the agencies came and saw the show. But I kept going in for Fire and PD, and I would almost get it, but it was like anytime it was like an Asian woman, there would be like 10, 15 of us like in the casting office. But they had gotten to know me at this point for because I'd been coming in for Fire and PD, that sometimes I would go straight to director sessions, which is nice. So it's only like 3 or 5 of us or whatever, but I just couldn't, I couldn't get it. Like I would be on hold, I would be like top 2. And then then my agent would be like, no, they didn't book you. And so I'm like wondering why. And then I think a year of that came a med audition. And I had never been in for that agent, but I read the script and it said Trinidad Trini Campos, like they had their whole name. It said Asian American, but I read it. I'm like, this is a Filipino nurse. Like I know, I can see it in my head. I know who this nurse is. I know what she's gonna bring to the hospital, and it's like one of those things where you know it, like you know this person, as Honey Girl in that play that I was just talking about, or just a couple of the other play in the college, like I knew who that person was. And so in my heart, like I was like, I'm gonna kill this. So I went in for that for the very first time. That was on a Wednesday. I got a call back Thursday. I booked the show Friday. So it was like within 3 days. Yeah, and so that was, and then I shot the next week. So it was a whirlwind kind of audition process for the show.
That was season what you and me came in?
So that was last season. So that was season 5. My first episode was episode 8.
Right.
So season 5, episode 8, and she was introduced in the show. She had several, like I had several scenes with kind of everybody to kind of integrate me into the show, but the whole episode was basically, me being the new nurse being yelled at. It's like my initiation process of Chicago Med. But I'll never forget it, and it's been such a special experience working with the show, and then also knowing that the casting agent for Med was kind of saving for the role. She like told me, she was like, you know, I haven't been calling you in because I don't like you. It's because I knew I was gonna save a special role for you. Because I don't know if you know this, but anytime you book, like if you're a Chicago actor, and let's say you book like a role of the neighbor or something like that, and you say, oh, there's a fire over here, or help, we need help, we need over here. If you even book that one role, you can't work in any of the Chicago shows for 2 years.
That's
Just
true.
for
Yeah.
continuity purposes. So you can't be a neighbor and then a doctor. I mean, you could be the same nurse, but it's very rare when they cross over anyway. So
Yeah, I was talking to Kurt Nabig, who was also on Chicago PD, and I remember he was saying like, because he got shot, he got killed literally on the show. So he goes like, oh, and I had to ask him, it's like, when are you coming back? Well, I gotta wait 2 years before they resurrect me.
yeah.
This goes like, okay, all right. There's such a thing as flashback.
Right, there you go.
But it's so it's television, theater, you're doing everything. It's exhausting just looking at it or just hearing from it. I'm reading through your interviews and everything, but I can sense personally, you love it. You love what you're doing.
I do.
So, is this something that I know we were talking about longevity earlier, but is this something that you see going beyond Nurse Trini?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, and I always say I'm grateful because I'm truly grateful. My role, like Lorena, who plays Doris,
Right.
it's very
Sassy. We call her sassy.
Oh, we're complete opposites. Yeah, she's the sassy one, and I'm always like the worried, concerned one. We play it together really well. But it's great because our roles we're always there. We're there pretty much every episode. But because of that, sometimes we don't know, or not glorified background, but like right. We're not the ones, usually filling out the story or being the storyteller. We're just kind of there to support, and that's okay. But there's opportunities too outside of like shooting schedule, to do. Sometimes I've been in auditions for commercials and stuff like that, and so there are options, but because my family's here, I'm never gonna like for the any sort of near future moving to LA or moving to New York. It's just possible for me. So I do have to stay here, but I do feel like there is still other opportunities for me. I don't think that med is end all be all. But we do have 2 more years after this season. So I'll be here for a while. But hopefully like maybe movies or commercials outside of the shooting schedule is always a possibility.
I know you guys have gone through a lot. I mean, Hollywood in general went through a lot. Let's just say it that way. When it comes to the pandemic, it affected everyone. I remember watching Patrick's interview. It goes like, it's so nice to come back because having a structure. All of a sudden, you come back, or Dick saying in an interview, saying like, it's trying to relearn to be an actor again.
Yes.
How was your 6-7 months of not? Did you just stay home, quarantined, or like a creative person would be creative, would find ways to do it? But how did you deal with the pandemic? And
well, and that's tough because yes, absolutely, creatives always feel the need to do that. But I think especially in the beginning with the pandemic, and there was so much unknown, it made me turn to comfort. And so I really tried to find ways to like keep my anxiety like calm. And so I really turned to like comfort eating and like organizing the house, spending time with my family, like quality time with my family, because my husband before that was working 60 hours a week. I was shooting med. I was also doing my muggle job. I was bartending and serving at a local restaurant. So we were doing all of that. And then I was shooting the show. I was choreographing a musical. And then I was also directing my first equity gig right before everything shut down. So it was go, 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 go. And I think what the pandemic helped us do was kind of just sit and like really cherish this special time where there's nothing to do out there. We could just be home. And so I wanted to make sure that our home was like, wasn't a prison, and that it was comforting, and that it was inviting, and that we wanted to stay here. But after 6 months, I was like,
Okay, I gotta work. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, but then right around that time was when all of the people on Med, there was like a hiatus Facebook group, and our producer would kind of keep us in the loop of things. So that was really nice, something to look forward to. Like figuring out like all of the COVID protocols that would help us go back into production. So having that update was really nice. So I wasn't like, oh, are we gonna have a job next season? So.
Do you guys, I know that you guys are going through the protocols of like, getting tested before filming and then getting tested again afterwards. Does that slow down production? Or do you have like longer days?
No. You know what's funny is that it clips more because we're on such a time schedule now, to where like I think Tori and I were talking before. It's like, why weren't we doing this before? Like,
right,
where
exactly.
It was just like, because we have to, because there's strict times now where we can only film without a mask for so long, or be without a mask for so long, and we have to stick to like sanitation protocols. So because of that, it's like everybody's kind of learned to move at a faster clip. I mean, if there are scenes that do call for like longer times, of course, things always get behind, but it's been a lot more efficient actually because of the new protocols in place.
Now I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but is it easier? Is it easier for you because your set is more contained compared to the other two Chicagos? You think it's easier for you guys?
Easier in terms of filming?
Yeah, filming. Yeah.
Yes, in a way, because we don't have to worry about transporting everybody to the location. Everything kind of just stays in one or two or three sound stages, and then extraneous little scenes are outside if necessary. So in that sense, yeah. But I think because we're indoors and not outdoors, I think there's also more protocols and more stuff in place because everybody. So like even when we're sitting down after some time, a really great coworker, Frank, he turns on this huge like HEPA filter purification thing just to like clear the air. So that's going on at the same time. And my coworker and I were just talking about how we're very like touchy people, and it's so hard to like not want to hug everybody when we see. So there's just things that it comes with the territory. It's all one big learning process, but it's definitely different. But we're all just grateful to have a job. That of course we here, and we will make do, and we will try to put forward the best production that we still can.
Now, how prior to filming your first episode, coming back to the season, were you guys like informed as far as obviously you did your first read, but were you guys informed, or like, okay, these are the protocols that's going on in other hospitals right now? We want it to be as realistic as possible. Were that discussed coming into filming?
So yes and no. So the main cast, I know they had a training session on set, but before you go in and film or whatever, SAG, which is the Screen Actors Guild, and then the Directors Guild, the Writers Guild, the local IATSA, and the makeup, like everybody who is part of the show and part of the union, like 6 or 7 groups formed this document on how to keep the set as safe as possible, without, I mean, of course, no set is going to be 100% safe, but they've had this really great document in place to where I felt safe as soon as I read it, of like, of course, I would never want to bring anything home to my kids, but of course, I would never want to bring anything to set. And what they put in place was really great in terms of expectations for them, expectations for us, and reading about what they were planning kind of helped, I think, everybody nerves be alleviated. But it's still a learning. I mean, even now, you know, some protocols are different because it's a huge learning process, but knowing that before filming was like a really great asset, knowing like all of these. And then it wasn't just the guilds, it was also, you know, doctors, the top doctors, you know, all of the research, you know, to back up those protocols.
Okay, I know most of your scenes are with Nat, with Dr. Manning.
Yeah.
Is it right? I kind of like watch all your episodes the last 2-3 days. I had my IMDb watching it, picking it out. But
you do pair me with Tori a lot.
Yeah, they do. How is it like working with Tori?
She's great. Okay, so Tori's a sweetheart. I think what happens is because, you know, she needs a nurse, she always mostly has pediatric cases. So sometimes it would be hard for Doris to be
exactly to be the soft-spoken.
I don't want to speak for anybody, but I feel like that's what I was thinking too a couple months ago. I'm like, I'm usually with Tori, and I think it's because, you know, with the kids and stuff, you know, I know Trini will be very empathetic and caring to the kids. Not to say Doris wouldn't be, it's just a different vibe.
Right.
I think she paired with Will a lot.
Right.
So Tori is so fun. We found out, I think, a little bit before filming stopped last season that we are like 10 days apart to the year. So yeah, so we're very similar. We get along really well. She's a voracious reader, as am I. So we have a lot of things in common. But I think the whole cast in general is so down to earth. And I know I'm lucky because I know I've heard horror stories about other sets and other shows. So I'm lucky that the cast is so open and genuine and kind-hearted, but also really generous. Like, and Tori and everybody, they always say, okay, we can have this moment here. You know, they're not screen hogs. They're not always worried about them. Like, they're really, really generous. And so I love it. Yesterday I worked with Brian, and the other day it was Brian Dom. It was like a huge thing. And I worked with Lorena yesterday too. And everybody is great. I know that people are always like, I want to know the tea, but there's no tea. Like,
no, there's no tea. Exactly. And we're not going to put you in a position to anyway. Or we're both going to lose jobs here. But yeah. Do you have a favorite?
No, not just a favorite, but like somebody asked me this too. It's not that I think there's always different dynamics, you know? Right. I felt like with Brian, like right away, like the first time we ever worked together, the way he is almost like really a big brother. And so I think within like the first hour of meeting him, I was telling him like my life story and he was genuinely listening to it. You know what I mean? And like,
is that the Asian in us?
You know, because he was telling me he had a Filipino best friend growing up, you know? So like it was, you know, he sounded like, you know, he was like, emulating his mom, and I was like, that sounds like my mom, you know. So it's just different dynamics with everybody, you know. But I get to chat with Lorena the most, just because when we do work together, it's kind of in the same level of what we have to do, and so she's given me so much advice on beat. You know, it was my first TV set ever, so she's given me so much advice about everything. It's just like backstage stuff as well as on camera stuff that you can't really get, you know, from everybody. And so having her on the set has just been really amazing, because she's like not just a mentor, but like a friend, and then also, you know, somebody that is at this, that like she understands the questions that I ask, you know, and understands where the motivation is coming from. So that's not a favorite, but definitely I have the most, you know, conversations with her about stuff.
In common.
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay, Go ahead, Marie.
Except, I was gonna say, it's usually like that with everybody except, you know, Oliver Platt. Like I still get starstruck with Oliver Platt. So it's usually just a hi, good morning, how are you doing? We don't really get to chat, but
Yeah, that was my
Go ahead. Go ahead.
that was what I was gonna ask you. Is like, do you get starstruck? Because
Starstruck.
yeah, especially the veteran actor you have, Africa. Oh my God! All
Yeah.
right, that's Law and Order 20 years.
Right, Epatha, but Epatha was actually the first person who ever spoke to me, and she is so chill and amazing and down to earth. She's like, first of all, she's from Detroit, which is where my husband's from, so they already have that, like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's just like approachable, like down to earth, like really generous person. But I don't really get starstruck, but I get like starstruck about the weirdest things. So like everybody, you know what I mean? All of these people are like celebrities and I have no problem chatting with them, but it was Heather Headley.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know who that is?
Right,
Like
right.
Gwen Garrett.
Yes.
I'm a musical theater like nerd fan. And so when we kind of had a scene together, but it was like in a passing kind of way. I was so scared to even like look at her. I was just like, that's Heather, she's in The Color Purple. So it was just like weird, like things like that. But and then the guest star that I worked with this episode, I'm not gonna say who because I don't think I can. But they are a legend. They've been in a lot of movies, and I couldn't believe that I would be working with them, and I was just so scared, you know. But I can't wait to share the story. But we were able to talk about our children, and they shared so many like personal things with me, and we got really close, and it was a very special experience to like not only learn from like a great, but also see their, you know, humanity. Was really, really special. So I can't wait until I think this episode that I just finished filming is probably going to be my favorite episode so far.
Oh.
I guess that's all I can say.
Okay, no. We want surprises. We don't want, you know, we want to be surprised. All right. Okay. I'm taking so much of your time. I just have like before I, you know, we run down everything. I have a little kind of like, I do this to every interview I usually do. I want you to describe each person in one word.
Okay.
Okay, I'll say the name and then, you know.
Okay.
Tori DeVito.
Hilarious.
Nick, okay, Gofus.
Humble.
Dominic Reigns, the new hottest guy that I was told.
Chivalrous.
Really?
Oh, he's the best. I'll never forget, we were going on location one time and he stood outside the van. This is when we could all ride together. He stood outside the van and held all the women's hands out the door. It was just like one step, but he like waited outside and like helped everybody out. He's the kindest, sweetest ever.
I actually emailed his agent begging him to come for an interview. And then NBC said like, Amy, you gotta wait a little later. Okay, fine. Brian T.
Kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Regal.
Yeah, she is. I mean, all the hair too, man. Seriously.
She just holds herself. Like you could tell that she's just this like energy is just, it's so regal. I love her.
I was doing a research on her. Like I didn't know that she was the one with Tyra Banks. She was one of the finalists.
That's how I knew her. I grew up watching her. And now like remembering all of those episodes, like people would, I remember their critiques was like, she would come off as like snobby or but she's not like that at all. She's one of those people who you can just tell she always thinks before she speaks because she's just very grounded in who she is. And she's not, I hate the word unapologetic, but she takes space and it's a watch. I love her. She's great.
Okay, Oliver Platt.
Intelligent. He's always in his script. Like you could tell that he's just an intelligent actor and person.
Evita.
Epatha?
Evita, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. She's hilarious too. She's funny. I love her. She cracks me.
All right. Okay. I know that a lot of the fans are how do you call this uh I
We forgot
are
Marlene.
Marlene. I
Yeah.
know, yeah, Marlene and Lorena.
Oh yeah, Marlene. So Marlene is eloquent. She speaks French. Did you know that? And she's always like, yes, she always knows what to say at the right time. Yeah, she started as an MTV VJ in Canada where she spoke French. Yeah.
Okay, that's a new. That's
Yeah.
something new.
That's a new
uh,
trivia.
and I know Lorena is theater too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. I know I said hilarious so many times, but Lorena, oh man, she's so talented. She's naturally funny. She's what is it called? Just what's the word? Comic skills are just so improv queen. She's so
Can
good.
you tell her that I'm watching her Instagram and she makes me laugh? All the
Yes.
stuff that she
Did
posts
you
on
see
her
his
Instagram.
character as
Right.
the I told her, I said, I'm mildly attracted to you, and it's so weird.
I sometimes, especially this past couple of months, you need something like that. That
Right.
you open your phone. Okay, I need a break from COVID and politics and everything. You go to Instagram and you find something like that. Thank you very much. It's kind of like that. Um, how do you call this? How, I, I, I'm not sure if people have asked you or have you gone to the fan sites of any Chicago. One of the posts that I remember seeing when the first two episodes aired, and this is I think most of them were saying, I don't say this just to put people down, but they said that how come Chicago Med had to devolve how to do a episode about the pandemic
Oh
when it's
yeah.
already, we go
Everywhere.
to tell it, yeah, we're already living it, but you go to television, you watch television to be entertained, and yet
Escape.
fine, yeah, to escape. But I mean,
It's
go
so
ahead.
funny. Number one, it's like damned if you do, damned if you
If you
don't.
don't,
With
correct,
anything, it's
right,
like if we didn't cover COVID, somebody's gonna say, well, that's not real or it's not rooted in reality. But I think one thing that I feel like everybody should know that Dick Wolf, all of his shows pull from real life situations, news
exactly.
headlines, and I feel like as a medical show, it would almost be irresponsible to not cover it in a way. But within that, right, even when you get the people who are like, well, I'm glad they covered COVID, but they're not doing it correctly because the emergency department is walking around with no masks on. It's just one of those things where you're always going to get a critic. And so I just say to those people of, I know that it's wearisome to always continually maybe have to experience COVID, even through the shows that you're watching and that you're trying to escape reality from. But what I think the whole entire production is trying to do is trying to bring you the stories that you don't see. Because I feel like if you constantly hear about COVID, but you've never experienced losing a loved one to COVID, how do these are what these first responders are dealing with every day, day in, day out. These are what these patients are dealing with. And if it is too close for you, if it is somebody that you lost COVID to, or you experienced COVID yourself, and it's a little too real, I understand that too. It's a little too raw for you and it's a little weary. I understand that too. But hopefully we can just bring some solace or some comfort to those people who feel like they get to experience that and they haven't experienced seeing people's like human nature to care for one another is what we ultimately it's about like kindness and humans caring for each other. I think that's I guess at the end of the day what we try to do. It's the critics, what's Facebook
Right.
commenters are just sometimes, and I know I'm always the one to I always want to respond and be like, that's not what it is.
Yes, right. Sometimes you kind of like, I mean,
Even if I say that, they're gonna get mad at me for saying something, so it's just like I just leave it alone.
I mean, I moderate a couple of Facebook pages, and the comments from fans, all those, you try not to be critical about it, but then sometimes kind of like, okay, guys, it's television.
Yeah.
All right, let's just sit back and let it roll.
And
TV.
otherwise you would watch like a real life medical like documentary or something like that. Even before COVID, we would have to cheat procedures or like that. It's not technically how we would do it because it's TV, and something, a surgery is not going to go exactly the way it is really done in life to cut out time and to cut out, just practical things. And so, I feel like it's TV, so everybody just has to try to take it with a grain of salt. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I feel like Med is super realistic compared to
right.
some other, shows.
Yeah, but I mean, most of the medical shows that came back for the new season, especially the medical shows, like on other networks, they did hit up COVID because you can't really get away with it, or it's not kind of like it's so superficial and not talk about it. And like what you said, it's not going to be. It's so irresponsible if you don't even talk about it that it exists at all.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Do you have a kind of like? Do you have a wish list for Nurse Trini? If Dick Wolf is gonna come to you and say like, "Hey Marie, I need some ideas. What do you want for Nurse Trini?"
I don't think the writer who originated my character, I haven't seen him in a while. I'm not sure if he's writing for another show or if we just haven't gotten an episode from him yet. But he based my character on a real life nurse named Trinidad, whose nickname is Trini, in LA. Because Filipinos would come up to him before that and say, what would make your show authentic? A Filipino nurse. Because There's no hospital in the US that does a Filipino nurse. And so when he got the opportunity to create a character, he knew that she was going to be Filipino and that it was going to be kind of loosely based on this nurse that he knows through his family named Trini. And so, in talking with him, which was fascinating, and I'm super grateful because I knew before I even talked to him that this woman was Filipino, this character was Filipina. And so in talking to him, he said, yeah, so if there's something like you that you pick up on and say, oh, I think this would be really great. Maybe I could speak some Tagalog. He said, let me know. Of course, a pandemic happened, so I haven't seen him in a while. So hopefully that invitation is still there later on down the road, but I would love that, even if it's like a Filipino patient came in and I have to translate or something,
right.
Or just a small, they're starting to do that, hopefully with I think Doris has there's a little more backstory, that sometimes that they develop with these recurring characters, they did that, sometimes with, I think Nate or, Dr. Lanik or Dr. Latham, so I think the possibility is always there. So it just depends, at this moment, it depends on the writers, it depends on the track, the journey of the season. But yeah, I would love to do that. Like I said, this episode I just wrapped is probably one of the biggest in terms of you get to see who Trini is. So I'm really excited for everybody to see this episode because I do have more to do in this last episode. So it seems like the journey is going up for her.
This is we're talking about what episode number what?
I just finished episode 5. I just shot episode 5. So they have a couple more days on episode 5 and then we're gonna film hopefully one more episode before break.
Yeah, I think I heard talking to my people that I know from PD that you guys are trying to squeeze in even before until Christmas to work in just to make up for lost.
And that's always the case, even though we typically take a break right around before Thanksgiving, and then we were still shooting until Christmas break, which is usually 2.5 weeks. So hopefully, barring anything, we're still slated to shoot at least one more episode after this before break.
I don't know if Chicago Med is being aired on in the Philippines, but I still have to actually I know Chicago PD is, but I'm not sure if they're airing Chicago Med. Should they air Chicago Med and people would find out Filipino directors and producers in Manila or in the Philippines in general, hey, and knock on your door, hey Marie, I'm here to see you have a role here.
Sorry, can you say it one more time? Sorry, you were breaking up, Amy. the
Uh,
last part of it. Writer.
if a Filipino director or a producer would knock on your door and say like, we're flying to Manila out of the Philippines for a role specifically made for you, would you do it?
Absolutely. Are you kidding? You know that's always like, it's always in the back of your head of like, okay, I can go home and like represent that way too. And I struggle with that sometimes, in the fact that like when you meet me in person, a lot of people don't realize that I'm Filipino because I'm 5'9". I'm more muscular, and I was a dancer, so I even carry myself even taller. And so a lot of people sometimes don't realize I'm Filipino. Even one of the I don't know if you remember from the first episode, her name is Alize in real life, but she played Kelly Lou in the first episode.
Yes.
She's
yes.
Filipina. And so I met her and her dad waiting for lunch. Yeah, waiting for lunch. And I feel like I could always tell if somebody's Filipino, So I said, "Are you Filipino?" They said, "Oh yeah." And I said, "Me too." And he was so shocked. And I said, "Yeah, no." I said, "Ako then." And he was like, "Wait, what?" And so, that's always hard. So like, not only am I taller, I'm more big bone, but I'm not like I'm not pute, I'm not like mixed, with half white, which is usually, I feel like, all of the Filipino superstars at home are like that.
Yeah,
so absolutely, like if they want me in different representation, I would love to go. I would love to represent and work, back home.
So before I let you go, first of all, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for having me.
So we are looking forward for more Nurse Trini, and you will let us know. Do you have any other projects other than Chicago Med going on that we should
right
know?
now? Currently, actually, yes. So on December 14th, there's a nationwide play reading event on gun violence. So about 45 companies or schools or universities have been working on this group of plays that are all about gun violence. And so on December 14th, you can tune into your preferred one, and it will be a collection. So I'm directing one of the plays in that play reading, and it's all women who are of color as my cast, and I'm really, really excited because they're amazing. So that's going to be on December 14th, and we're recording it. We're recording the reading tomorrow for it. And then I'm also producer of this really great holiday show. It's going to be kind of like a marathon all-day situation where there's going to be, the main thing is a different take on a Christmas Carol. With lots of new different perspectives, as well as like some sketch comedy, some performance, some little like variety bits. And then there's also like some sort of what is it called? Twitch, streaming stuff happening. There's so much going on. A light show, a DJ party, original composition, and that's on December 19th. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. There's also a mental health counselor to listen if you have any sort of, it's kind of basically trying to deal with the seasonal depression that people may have or whatever. So something to kind of lift your spirits and look forward to during such a kind of season where sometimes you don't feel all the way, mentally there or happy. So that's a really great project. So those are the two things that I'm doing. And then hopefully, next year I'll be taking on more projects.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, Nurse Trini, Marie. I appreciate you. I appreciate the time that you gave us, and obviously the fans are going to be watching this. We'll be reposting it. I'll send you the link so that you can, repost it for yourself. But I appreciate it, and come back soon. Other than if you have any other projects other than Chicago Med, know that there's somebody watching you, and and I took your pictures and I do share them to the fans.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Even my daughter, because I share messages with my daughter, I've talked to people from Brazil, from the Philippines. I actually am sending out Christmas cards to I think 5 or 6 global international addresses because they were interested in a Christmas card. So I'm always grateful to meet so many amazing fans. The shy-hards are so ride or die, and they're so amazing. And you know, I still feel privileged. Like, I hope I will never get to be a celebrity to where I don't remember to be grateful, because it's so touching to me that people are not only watching me, but they say I'm a fan, or you know, we love watching you, because that's important, you know, that I can get to know people through my work. That's all I can ask for. So thank you for having me, and I always appreciate opportunities like this.
And watch yourself in another language. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, no. One more story. I actually met the person who dubs Nurse Trini in Germany in a German voice. Isn't that hilarious? She like messaged me on Instagram. She goes, "I'm German Nurse Trini," and I just thought it was the most like coolest and hilarious thing that like there's somebody in Germany watching my mouth and like dubbing German,
Right.
and there's watching me in Germany. It blows my mind.
I mean, that's something probably you should. I mean, I will try to ask that, because sometimes the fans do send me stuff that they sound like this in Italian. That they say, "I'll try to find you. I'll try to."
Oh, amazing! I would love to see it. Yeah, I asked her. I said, next time you see it, please record it for me.
That's how you see how global the thing, how global the show, and you know, there's always a Nurse Trini somewhere. And I know that it makes up the cast, and the cast do look good, and they look good on television. But I usually believe in like, you know, there are people. You know, when we were doing 50 and Magnetia, I usually say sometimes it's the people around and that makes them look good. And
it's true. It's true.
It's you know, it's people like you that, you know, makes them whole, makes the show whole. Because if it's not, they're just, no offense to the main actors, but you know, they'll be, especially doctors, they need nurses. Come on, let's be real, think about it. So
and T, who's the director of that last episode I was just in, everybody kind of knows him as Bubba from Forrest Gump.
right.
He's been my director. That was my third episode with him, and he is so great at not only thanking the main actors, but all the supporting actors, the people working behind the scenes. He brings an awesome energy and is always so great about like thanking everybody. And that's the stuff that I always try to remember in my career, that the person that's bringing you a water is the same person that could be directing you 5-10 years from now in a major motion picture. And so I just try to not because you're getting something out of it, but it's just common courtesy to just treat everyone the same, because ultimately they're there to support you. So that's just, I feel like a mantra that I always live with and work with. So just be kind to everyone.
Well, thank you again, Marie. And I have to say this in Tagalog. It's like mabuhay ka. And it goes like, I mean, I know there's some Filipino actors that, like, you know, struggle in making and breaking through the American market. And I'm really proud of like being able to talk to people or actors like you that are able to break through it. And it's really heartwarming. And it goes like, that's why I said like, oh, hey, I'm proud to be a Filipino when it comes like that, you know. And you know, that means a lot for us, and want to see you guys, and you know, you succeed. And it's not easy because its competition is really, really there. So for you guys making it, recurring or not, we're proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Don't cry. All right,
no,
don't cry.
I'm so emotional. My husband's gonna be like, "Why are you crying?" But because it touches my heart, and I'm so thankful. Thank you so much.
Well, we are gonna be in touch. Let me know if you need anything, and have a happy holiday. Thank you again. Happy holidays. And tell your daughter, yes, you can be a doctor.
Absolutely, or an actor, whatever she wants.
Yeah, she can be doctor. And good luck to your hearing twin. And you know.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I'm learning from her as much as she's learning from me. So.
Thank you, Marie. Have a good one. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Ingat ka rin. Bye-bye.